Welcome back to Beyond the Tales. This is episode 6, and we're talking about episode 5, confusing, I know, the prehistoric era. And this is a episode which is kind of the calm before the storm in a way, very similar to our Ankylosaurus episode in season 1. So this episode really took inspiration from Dino Tracker. So in Dino Tracker there is a video where the Stegosaurus is encountered by people on BMXs in Maine, USA. And I kind of like the idea of taking that clip, changing the location. You know, the redwoods are a location that is so historic, so almost prehistoric in the modern day. So it felt like a fun location to really take this story to, and sort of give this idea that maybe people are having similar encounters across different parts of the world. So obviously that encounter happens in Maine. You have a similar encounter in the redwoods. Does that mean that stegosaurs are just herding through the different woods in the US? Who knows? It's a little bit of sort of almost comical parallel in a way, I would say. But it really was a fun way to give tribute to Dino Tracker and the wonderful in-world work that has done, whilst also giving us sort of a wider story that involves the stegosaurs. So I really like the idea in this particularly that people are getting too comfortable with dinosaurs, right? That they're not treating them with the caution that they should be treating them with. And we see this in the real world all the time. You know, tigers, lions, keepers who get too comfortable, forget that those animals have ultimately got an instinct, and can get themselves injured and killed as a result of that sort of ignorance. So I really like the idea of people interacting with dinosaurs in ways that they shouldn't. In this particular story, a BMXer deciding to try and jump over a stegosaur for a cool, like, viral social media clip, and instead getting clubbed pretty brutally with a thagomizer. I just thought that that was a really, really cool idea. And I like the fact that this is more of a mundane encounter as well, right? It's not all about deadly dinosaurs in the wild all of the time, because that's not how this would work. You would of course have those horrible encounters, those deadly carnivores, those theropods causing chaos, but that's going to be mixed in with more mundane everyday scenarios. And so I think that this kind of communicates the fact that actually there will be people just getting injured as a result of these encounters, right? So it was fun to explore that. And lastly, I think that this episode really is about layering in more of Biosyn. So we know that Howard King is the person who responds this time around, kind of completing that transition from Fran Marshall being a person involved to now Howard King sort of overseeing those operations, and really being the point of contact for Morrison and Brown moving forwards. So this episode is quite significant for Lucy. It sees an evolution in her character, and so we're going to talk to Ashley Friel a little bit more about that evolution in Lucy Brown's character. So we'll cut to that conversation now. So, episode 5, Ashley, firstly, did you have any idea that this was partly inspired by Dino Tracker?
A little bit, because I remember seeing the clip with there's Stegosaurus clip
Yes.
with the car, and it drives, like, he swings his tail and it drives off the road. Yeah, so I had that connection a little bit, but not directly influenced, but like, yeah, you could tell that it's set kind of.
You could
feel
there
that even be
was
the
a
same
vibe.
Stegosaurus.
Yeah, wow. So it's interesting because in the actual different sightings that were on the website, there's one with a Stegosaurus in Maine, and like a mountain biker's going through a trail, and then he sees the Stegosaurus on his left, and it makes him crash. So it was kind of directly taking that, but
I missed
putting
that
it in
one.
a different location, kind of making it a different story, but really taking inspiration from that more so here.
It's like seeing another side of
Exactly,
this
yeah.
video.
So actually the kind of like parallels as well, right? Of the same situation is playing out in two different places. Maybe these stegosaurs are attracted to similar locations, that kind of thing.
And I think that also kind of goes back to episode 2, the wedding episode, because one of Lucy's bridesmaids mentions that Pteranodons were attacking her wedding.
So
and that's one of those clips.
I'm so glad you mentioned that because that is deliberate because Sam played Sarah in the Dino Watch podcast that I did around Dominion, and her whole story was the story of her wedding getting ruined. So I was like, we'll put a super meta reference in here, and anyone who has listened to the Dino Watch podcast gets to also enjoy the fact that Sarah is like a recurring character in this universe.
And I love her line of like, oh, first it was the long nose or the big nose ones,
Yeah.
and now it's these ones.
It was a very Sarah thing to say. And shout out
Yeah.
to Sam actually, because I think she sent me like a 5 minute recording of that one line with so many different variations. She had so much fun with that, which was awesome. So this episode is set in a very iconic location as well. We are in the Californian redwoods. So how did it feel knowing that this episode was set there?
Oh, I love it. It's
Yeah,
such, the redwoods are such a great place. They're so prehistoric. Those trees are,
yeah,
they're so old and they're the tallest trees in the world. And, it's a really awe-inspiring place and a place that looks like it would, host dinosaurs.
it's like the
So
perfect backdrop for
it's
a
the
Jurassic
perfect setting.
story.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that was quite a fun thing to play with, is actually the idea that this location almost feels like something pulled from the past anyway, so it doesn't
Hmm.
feel amiss to have dinosaurs in it.
No, not
Um,
at all.
so this episode we have a sequence where Lucy is brave enough to go off on her own, and I think this shows just how far she's come since the start of season 1. So
Hmm.
how did that feel?
Oh gosh, it's amazing to see her progress because before, she was cowering in tears, not knowing what to do. Um, but now she's grabbing those tranquilizers and she's off and she's like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go do this. And it's great to see that progress. Um, and be able to see it through from season 1 to now.
Yeah. It's interesting because I think I've said this before, but when I was writing this was the sort of like my first foray really writing with a lot of characters. So I didn't really think about character arcs, and they've kind of naturally fallen into place, which has been quite nice to see because that sort of makes me feel like maybe the core components of the story are okay, and we figured out the arcs as a result of that, which is nice to
Yeah.
think.
Yeah, and it's even more amazing that it happened so naturally. So you're
Yeah.
doing something right, Tom.
Yeah, there we go. So in this episode, she discovers a juvenile Stegosaurus as well.
Hmm.
And this has wide sort of ramifications in terms of the idea that the dinosaurs are breeding on the mainland and that this is why there's such a proliferation of them in Dominion. But more broadly, what do you think Lucy's reaction would be to seeing that and actually realizing that there's now baby dinosaurs running around the place?
She she is in awe. I mean, first and foremost, she's an animal lover, and she's a dinosaur lover as well. And she joined the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service for these animals. And now that she's getting to see nature kind of, take its course, that these dinosaurs are breeding. But the first reaction is, oh my God, like it's so cute. And
Yeah,
as an animal lover, just kind of nerding out about it. But then that realization hits that, oh, these guys are breeding in the wild.
yeah,
This is a whole nother level of concern now. So the stakes just got a little bit higher.
yeah.
um, but yeah, but she has that moment where she's just kind of taking it in for a second, and just observing them and watching them. um, and it's a very wholesome moment.
Yeah, I think it is. It's really nice. So you kind of with the stakes being a lot higher there, you hint at something that I think is really important in season 2, which is the idea of this wider world and building the wider world. So obviously, so far we've had Anton Orlov appear with dinos that are being trafficked. We've had Biosyn connected more closely to the past of InGen. We've had the wedding disruption happen, like you've seen. We've had the Nothosaurus attack in the wild, and now we've got this episode. So, what do you think season 2 more broadly is doing when it comes to building that wider world?
It's really expanding, because now it's not just the Fish and Wildlife Service. It's wider. It's Biosin and the people that are working for Biosin, and there's that whole other level. And how are they dealing with that? And Lucy, I feel like she would write a very strongly worded letter to Biosin
Yeah.
for what's going on. But it's a great way to build this world out, because you're seeing more characters and you're seeing not just more dinosaurs too, but people, and how is this all interconnected, and when one thing happens, how is that affecting everything else?
Yeah.
If that answers your question.
It does, yeah. I think having that knock-on effect is really kind of quite crucial.
Yeah.
And so I think the last thing to touch on is later this week, people are going to be hearing the finale of season 2. So I'm going to give you a challenge. How would you describe the finale in a sentence?
Oh gosh, Tom.
I could tell you my sentence if it helps, but it's a case of me stealing somebody else's work.
I was just trying to figure out how to say this without being spoilery. Not really a sentence, but a very popular phrase of hold on to your butts.
How have you just taken that out of my brain? What is going on here? That is exactly the phrase that I was about to say, but I don't need to say it now.
Oh, I'm so glad you didn't say it first then.
Yeah, wow. Okay, well, I think it says
the best way that I can sum it up, because obviously I don't want to say anything that might even remotely be a spoiler. So hold on to your butts, because you're gonna need to.
Yeah, I couldn't say it any better. I literally took the words out of my mouth. Well, Ashley, thank you. Yeah. Thank you for doing this for episode 5. Is there anything you want to leave people with before we get out of here?
You are really asking these tough questions.
Just like any final messages you want to give people, you could say thanks for the support so far.
Oh yeah,
even though at the time of recording this we have no idea if people have liked this season or not, but
thanks for tuning in to these behind the scenes and watching all of the episodes, because it really does mean a lot to myself and everyone who is a part of this project. We put our heart and soul into it, and it's something really special that we all love, and that we hope that the audience all loves. And from season 1, a lot of people seem to have enjoyed. So I think season 2 is going to be even wilder.
Yeah, I think that's a good note to end on, Ashley.
Or season 2 is wilder, I should say.
There we go.
Season two is wilder.
that would be like the box quote. If you get your DVD box, you get the quote on the front cover. That's the quote. Season 2 is wilder. We'll go with that. Ashley, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, and next week is our finale, so I'm not gonna give you a teaser. The finale has not been featured in any of our advertising, any of the trailers, and you are going in completely blind. So do come back on Friday. It's not next week even, it's this Friday. Come back, listen to the finale. I think we're in for an interesting ride, so I will see you then.